Broadcasting live from our Columbia, Maryland headquarters, they are founders of Hard Money Bankers, REI 360, and are international bestsellers with their book, The Whiteboard. Here are Chris Haddon and Jason Bailey.
Hey everyone, Chris and Jason here, Hard Money Bankers and REI 360 in our office in Columbia, Maryland. Today we are talking about working with virtual assistants and outsourced help.
Yeah, so we've been using virtual assistants and outsourced help, some nationally, internationally, local, all over the United States, stuff like that, probably for about 8 years now. And it's a really good kind of tip and hack to continue to use them if you haven't already. You'd be astonished some of the things that they can really do and help with you. So let's start off a little bit, because I get a lot of people that I talk to that say, well, I'd love to get one, but I don't really know where to find them. What can they do for me? Things like that. So the first thing is there's a lot of platforms online, Odesk, freelancer.com, things like that. There's one that used to be called Elance and Guru, but I think those guys merged with Odesk. You create an account with that and really just put in a description of what you're looking for. I would get as creative as possible and really think of some of the things that you need help with and add them as a project, right? Go and add them as a project.
People will bid on it. And you'll be surprised how inexpensive, and quality the work can be.
Yeah, exactly. So there's obviously a lot of tips and tricks that you need to follow. And after we've hired probably 100 people this way, there's a few things we can kind of help with. So the first is you need to be very descriptive with what you're trying to accomplish. Sometimes it's easier to communicate with just talking like this, and I can see how you're moving, and I can hear the words that are coming in your mouth, and we can take it to a whiteboard and describe it. But when you're communicating with somebody just via chat or just via a text application, you got to be really descriptive, and they don't know what's in your head. You need to explain it, and I don't want to necessarily use the term of treat them like a 5-year-old or fifth grader, but at the same time, use colors, use bullets, make it as descriptive as possible.
Right.
What we like to do is we usually try to get 3 or 5 people to do the actual project for us and then pick the best one for it. A lot of these projects are simple. Like, what do you think a website costs to build? A lot of people probably be like, well, it costs $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. Well, you can usually get somebody to do one of these for a few $100 for you. So that's way below a typical budget. So if that's going to happen, might as well just get 4 or 5 people to create one and see what happens. Put a little bit of money into it, use the best one, and then move on from there.
Yeah, you just mentioned the website thing, and I was going to ask you, in our experience and other people that we know and do business with, what are some of the best hires? Like the best people to outsource, maybe first? Obviously you can have 20 different people. Well, but if you were to have 1 or 2 or 3, what would they be?
So obviously all kinds of tech stuff is very, very easy, because there's a lot of qualified people out there that can do tech stuff, and most people's head explodes when you think of tech. When I mean tech, I mean website, graphic design, HTML, things like that. Maybe even setting up an email system for you. There's a lot of different ways to do that. And we know people that their entire business is outsourced. And then we know people that just have segments of their business that are outsourced. And again, there's no pros and cons, or there's no right or wrong. There's pros and cons of both, and it just depends on who you are and your management style and kind of what you're looking, to get out of it. But I think a lot of the graphic stuff and a lot of it'll take you an hour to put up stupid graphics or website designs. Just get someone else to do it. It'll cost you $1 or $5 or $10. It's so simple to do. Website stuff like that. We learned how to do some of these things, which we probably shouldn't have, and we wasted a lot of time and a lot of money, a lot of energy trying to. These days, we don't touch anything on our websites anymore, or any of these. We don't need to. They're completely outsourced with stuff. Usually our setup is I put a project online before I leave the office. I have it on my to-do list, and then when I get to the office the next day, it's completed, and I can go on and grind it out. But again, you gotta, that's kind of the hiring and the finding process. I hope that was descriptive enough, because I think that's important. Don't be too overwhelmed of where I'm going to find this person. I don't know if I'm going to get along with them, any of those types of things. Get somebody to bid on a project and start from there, right? And do a project with them, and then maybe it expands into something else. So the next thing is trying to figure out, do you want somebody local? Do you want somebody national? Do you want somebody international? And really, it depends on
the hire, on the position, right?
On the hire and what you're looking for. if you want somebody who's going to be doing accounting or bookkeeping for your company, you probably don't want somebody international. You probably want somebody either national or local.
I think that one in general is challenging because that one does come up a lot. Obviously the tech stuff, and it makes a whole lot of sense, and you'll talk about like the time changes and international everything else. But I hear people mention frequently that I want to outsource my accounting, and that has always seemed challenging to me, and like it might not work that well maybe if they're national, it could possibly work, but one, they need to be able to send checks, and they need to be able to make deposits.
Yeah.
If they can't do that, then that's a big part of the job, and there's just constant questions when it talks about handling the flow of money. Like money's like in pretty much every small business is like hour to hour, day to day. There's just constant communication about it.
Sure.
So I still don't know how to outsource accountants, but
yeah, I think it's possible, and I think maybe you have a PO box or you have an address and checks go into them, or somebody in your office handles checks.
Or completely online businesses.
Yeah,
that would work a lot better.
Yeah, for sure. We, personally, we like having a lot of our staff in-house. We can collaborate. It's easier for us, but I know a lot of companies that want everything outsourced, so there's a lot more flexibility, and people work on their own time frames as long as stuff's getting completed.
Sure.
So it really just depends on, this day and age, everything can be outsourced and everything can be done remotely. Mm-hmm. It's just you as a manager. Obviously the pros of doing stuff outsourced and remotely is it's cheaper to do that. You don't have to house employees, things like that, but do you lack a little bit on the productivity side when people are doing stuff in their own world? Maybe not. I'm not 100% sure. Any other pros and cons that you can think of?
There's just lots of pros and cons, and there have been good books written about this recently, and people talking about it a lot, and even full-on big companies like One Automatic, who's run by the company's run by Matt Mullenweg. He was the founder of WordPress, and he has a huge outsourced team all over the world, hundreds of people. And hearing him break down how they, what they do manage, what they don't, the conference calls, their annual meetup, which is obviously a gigantic thing with that many people, it can be done. Even at a huge scale like that, it can all be done. It's just about how creative you are with the structure and accountability and everything else, and obviously the right people. Whether it's outsourced or in-house, the right people make or break the whole thing. Yeah,
the managerial side of things, like you were talking about, having the right systems and processes in place that you can put somebody in there. Somebody in there on a regular basis. I think that's important. So let's jump to tools, tips, and software, some hacks and things like that, because I think there's still a little bit of unknowns, right? Like, it's okay, great, there's an outsourced person, or I've had problems with stuff. So a few things. After you get a project underway and they're doing a project for you, what we've learned is I like to survey some of these guys, and make sure, guys or girls, make sure you have a relationship with them, a good relationship with them. Chat with them on Skype. A lot of them like to use Skype. That seems to be a great way to do it. Email. We use a project management tool called Asana.com, but there's tons and tons of project management tools
like Slack,
that you can do.
Like Slack has gotten huge and people love it. We haven't implemented that here ourselves, but it's definitely one to check out. I believe it's free.
Yeah, Asana's free too. So there's a lot of different tools, whatever works best for you, just like anything in business. Like, figure out what you're going to do and what you like and what you're comfortable with, and stick with it. So we do that on a regular basis. That's how we communicate with all of our people. But when I'm setting someone up, when we're getting someone on board the first time, I like to do stuff on a project basis first. I think you get paid a flat fee to get this project done. After that, then sometimes we put people hourly. So we say we can allocate 10 hours a week to your particular position at this pay, and then after that, full-time. So we had a full-time graphics person that does HTML for us, graphic design, banner ads, things like that. They make $220 per week, and they're full-time. And I don't utilize them as much as I used to, because we used to have a lot more projects for them. And now, just because we've been better at managing stuff and stuff's more streamlined, we have someone that can handle some of that stuff in-house. But I still pay them $220 a week because it's very little money, and they're at beck and call when we need them. And when stuff needs to get done, it needs to get done. And let's be honest, you go online and you try to get someone to do like a brochure or flyer for you, it's going to cost you a lot more than $220. And we're utilizing them plenty for $800 or $1,000 a month, but just on an hourly basis, we're not. But I like having them available for us. So one hack that I really found useful was, when you find someone that you really like, make them fill out a survey, create a survey of everything in your company that you think they could help you with, and ask them to check off, are they proficient at it? Are they proficient at it? Is this something that they've done before? Is this something they have no idea about? And then another checkbox over here, like on the other side, that says, are you interested in learning how to do this? Right, so we take a virtual assistant, an outsourced staff member, we get them to fill out this entire survey. First off, maybe you're using them for graphics, but they really know how to do HTML, or maybe they know how to write copy, or maybe they know how to code, whatever the case is, and then you can utilize them for other things. And then I like the one at the end of will you be willing to learn, because for instance, we just implemented a new website developer that's not WordPress. We're used to building everything WordPress, but we changed things up to have a little bit more flexibility. We've been talking about ClickFunnels. That's been one. And this guy one of our guys did not know how to use ClickFunnels, but he was willing to learn it. So we said, okay, cool. Well, on this next project we do it in ClickFunnels, and he did it, and he did it perfectly, and he learned it, and he's better at that stuff than any of us are, right? Mm-hmm. So that's one hack that I think a lot of people fall into. You hire somebody for one project, but you don't realize that they have the ability to do a lot of other things.
For sure.
I've learned that they all like to get paid on a weekly basis. So every Friday, we PayPal them money. I think that's good to know. What other hack can we help you guys out with? If you have any comments related to hacks, software, tips that you're currently using for outsourced people, feel free to comment below as well. I just think I'd like to give you one more good piece of advice or good takeaway that you can take and implement in your business. I just need to think through it a little bit.
It would be cool if people could comment on where they're finding their people, if they're using like the Elance, which became Upwork, and this one and that one, because they change a lot, and there's been some consolidation in that industry too, with companies buying other companies. So we're always down to hear the resources that you're using.
I would respect their time just like you want them to respect your time, but a lot of the issues that people have with outsourced help is communication. The communication is really hard, and there's a lot of people that are very poor at communicating. They don't know the difference between an email and a chat, or a description in a project management software. They're very, very different to communicate with. So I try to be as descriptive as possible. And usually when I write out a project for somebody, it's I title it, so that's the title is something we can reference. And then I do all the bullets. I put images, I put pictures, font sizes, things like that, like as descriptive as possible. Because if not, every day you're just going back and back and back and forth, and you're going to do some stupid project that takes a week when it should take one time. So I think that's a big part that a lot of people don't realize. So maybe we'll do another series on this outsourcing and finding finding help either through virtual assistants. I know a lot of real estate investors, they do all their data entry with them. Sometimes they're doing inbound call leads. They're doing a lot of stuff with that. And what we've learned
is for everything.
And what we learned from doing this show and talking to a lot of real estate investors is a lot of you guys are, to be honest, a little bit unorganized, and you don't have good processes and systems in place. And we're here to help with some of this stuff, and it's good to have all of this down. And maybe you don't have a $4,000 budget a month to hire somebody or in-house, so maybe this is a good option. Maybe you can hire 3 or 4 people with smaller skill sets to do some of these things that you're doing to help in your business. So maybe we'll do a follow-up video on this one as well.
Yeah, I feel like that could be broken down into a bunch of different like little mini topics, and really dive deep on each one. But yeah, good stuff.
As always, like, comment, share, subscribe. Again, really appreciate any comments that you have related to this topic. We're here to answer them. Thanks again.